Today on Off the Hinges, relax, pour yourself a drink, and unwind from your week as I take the next 20 minutes to answer your questions and share stories about this week's trade. I'm joined by a special guest, and I have my whiskey in hand. I'm so glad you made it. Are you ready? Let's slide into the vault.
Tell our friends a little bit about who you are. What's your story while I take my first sip?
Oh man, appreciate it, brother. Let me first say comments, thoughts, opinions, all my opinions, thoughts. This is not necessarily representative of my company, who I work for, but I'm a believer. I'm a man of faith. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a brother. Um, I'm a friend. That's who I
Mhm.
am. And I try to be the most authentic and truthful person that I can be to myself and to others. That's who I am.
What are you most thankful for this week?
Yeah. I'm going to cheat a little bit and I'm going to give slightly two
All right.
answers. I know it's not necessarily what you probably want, but I'm still going to go for
Hey, today's all about you and the listeners, man. So you answer however you want
it.
because I can edit away whatever I want.
There you go. Number one, I'm going to say life. I have never in my life been more grateful for life
Mhm.
than after losing my mom last year. And
Yeah.
I realized how much of a privilege it is to wake up every morning. Number one, hands down.
Yes, sir.
But number two leans into more of what you kind of stole it from me a little bit, dude. It's you. And I genuinely mean this. This is not a kiss up moment. One word that I've been using a lot this year is intentionality.
Hmm.
And the one thing that I'm thankful for is your intentionality with retaining our relationship. I can't think of a time that either we have been in the same vicinity that you have reached out. Either it's been a quick lunch, a dinner, a quick visit. It didn't matter what it was. Even through the COVID years, we were
Hmm.
doing the Bible studies and stuff together. Um, you continue to persist. And I think what's even more appreciative that I am thankful for is that you never judged me when there were lapses of time in between some of our conversations. It always felt like we could just pick up and just keep going. So I am thankful for you,
Yeah.
my friend.
Thanks. Well, I can't throw boulders in a glass house, man, because those lapses of time usually are the byproduct of a husband and a father of little girls, which we
There you
both
go.
share.
There
So,
you
hey,
go.
no judgment, my dude. What's something new you learned this week? Anything?
Oh, my goodness. This one was more of a reminder. Um, every problem that I'm confronted with is not a problem for me to solve.
Mm.
And I realized that in some big problems that were presented to me, but also in small problems, even going back to, our gym days. And I won't name this one person in our group who said this to me, but I respect him for it. I was in the gym this morning and I saw a guy, let's just say, not maximizing some equipment appropriately. And my initial reaction was to want to go over to help. And
Yeah.
immediately I was kind of quickened and it was kind of like, no, that's not your business. It's not your concern. You're getting involved in something that really has nothing to do with you. And I
Right.
think it's interesting. The older you get, you start to recognize and realize the importance of discernment,
Mm.
and that you have to be careful about distractions because it can take you away from your focus if you're now using energy to try to either be God or teacher to someone else, when in actuality, there are other things that you should be focused on. So I got a quick reminder of, although problems are presented to me, not every problem is one for me to solve. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So
Man, you say discernment made me just about call an audible and say, we're just going to switch from teamwork and talk about discernment today. Sorry, guys. You tuned into the wrong episode. See you later if you want to leave. That's fine. We'll keep it on teamwork, but that's such a powerful word. All right. So heading into the weekend, how do you desire to grow as you hopefully find some rest and reflection coming off the heels of this week?
clarity, and we've talked about this a little bit, that's a big thing also with me this year.
Hmm.
Clarity, people use the word mindfulness. I'm going to say awareness, just awareness of the decisions that I've made, of the tone that I've used with my family, with how I have engaged with people or not engaged with people.
Right.
All of that to me is something to think back on, to go, hey, did I make good choices? Did I make good decisions?
One of the last times that we talked, so just so everybody knows, like, you're just joining in on a normal Fred and Josh talk, to be honest. But one of the times, man, sitting on this side of the screen, it was like I got a peek into what it's like to be me watched from the outside. Because you were walking down the street. So Fred lives in my hometown where I grew up in the Queen City of Charlotte, North Carolina. And it was like 8:30 in the evening. And I think Donnie, your wife, was gone. So you're with your three little girls on a walk. And man, like watching you with them, I was like, oh, this is gold. Because you're like, hey, no, no, ma'am, no, ma'am, look across the street. And then you said, yo, man, check this out. And you flip your phone down. And I see I think it was either your middle or your littlest one, I forget which one, was carrying a broken scooter. And you said, dude, I told her that if you bring that thing, I don't think it's going to make it. And if it doesn't make it, I ain't carrying it. You got it. And you said, and now she's learning what dad means. And I was like, oh, thank God. And it's not just me. I love those little girls, but thank God. And man, I didn't die laughing like this then. But when I hung up the phone, I was like, I needed that. I needed to know I'm not alone.
That's called real.
Hey, that's real. So the three little girl life, we got that in spades, buddy. So yeah. Welcome to teamwork. It ain't all you, and there's plenty around you doing the same thing. So just be honest. Oh, goodness. So Lynn's asked, what has been the biggest challenge you've faced in building / working with teams?
I look at teamwork as almost like a three-leg stool, or having three parts. To me, one, there has to be a common goal. And to me, this has not, it's not necessarily just professionally. I think this can go across relationships, marriages, how you raise your children, all of it. There has to be a common goal.
Right.
Two, there has to be some level of respect. So, do I acknowledge that this person has a voice, should be heard, has something to contribute, has something to say? And then the third piece is about trust. And trust to me is something, and it depends. People go back and forth with this. Some people are, I start with 0 and you build trust. Some people, I start at 100 and your actions and what you do deplenishes that level of trust. I have found it to be most challenging in coming into a team where there is no trust, because it takes time. It is not something that can be rushed. It can be fabricated. People know when it's genuine. If you are not authentic in your statements, in your comments, especially from the position of a leader, I think there's two ways to look at it. As a leader, there's a level of trust, but then as a peer, there's also a level of trust. And many times there are things you don't have control over when it comes down to your ability to trust. So you could trust the other individual, but they may not trust you, and you can't control that.
Right.
And I think that's the part when it comes down to teamwork that it can be challenging. Sometimes you win and sometimes you don't. I'll be honest with you. I haven't won every situation when it comes down to building trust with people. I think I've gotten close. I think I've broken through at times. But definitely that trust factor. And it's something that you have to consistently work on. It's not something you get to a point and it ends. Because in the back of your mind, possibly for that individual, they're always thinking about the betrayal.
Right.
They're always thinking about the hurt. So you're constantly having to reinforce, or at least reaffirm, that you are present, that you are, you see them as valuable, you see what their contribution as being something that's valuable, and making sure that that's something that's continuously happening.
Yeah. All right. Next, Micah asks, have you ever had someone on your team just didn't get it? And how did you handle it?
Okay, so when I hear that, that question could be taken two different ways, Micah. So I will approach it two different ways. I think one is if you're referring to a person's ability, meaning to get it, or is it a choice that they're not getting it? Does this person have the ability to do what you are asking them to do? That could be to partner, to execute on a task. I think that's the first thing you have to be honest about the person's aptitude. And then it's an awareness, I would go with. Is this person aware that they have gaps? Is this person aware that they have information that may not be clear? Is this person aware of what they're saying or doing or acting, their behavior, right?
Mm-hmm.
The next step for me would be probably providing feedback. So I do think you have to confront the person. Person's not getting it. Hey, pull them aside. I definitely think all conversations have to start one-on-one. Giving some feedback, acknowledging what you're seeing, what behavior you're seeing. I would also probably suggest giving that feedback on the spot. I have found that sometimes delayed feedback, and I can say that for my kids as well. Even with my wife, I can be honest about that as well. If we're having a discussion and something comes up and a behavior that maybe we're not aligned on, and she presents that behavior, identifying in the moment that's the behavior that I'm referring to helps her connect with, oh, now I see what you're talking about. And I
Right.
think sometimes hearing that or getting that feedback on the spot helps with the connection, especially if the person isn't necessarily aware, right?
Right.
I would say next, then you have to do another assessment. Hey, assess to see, has this person taken the feedback? You've had the conversation. I think this is like that decisioning point now. The person is making the correction, trying. There's a little bit of improvement. You have to keep doing it. That means you have to keep giving the feedback. You have to keep having the assessment, and that cycle continues. Now, I'm going to be honest. There have been situations where people have not responded to the feedback, and there is an alternative route. You have to think about the greater team. At some point, you have to go, the amount of time that you are investing in this one individual, how is this impacting the other, whatever number of people that are also working towards a common goal? And if that person becomes toxic to the rest of the group, I hate to say it, probably managing that person out, this is a term that we use, or finding that person another opportunity that better fits either their personality, their skill set, or their strengths, in my opinion, is kind of the direction to go.
Do you have a favorite cinnamon? Cinnamon. Do you have a favorite cinnamon? Let me see if I can speak our own native language. Synonym. Do you have one of those for teamwork?
Partnership is the word that I use often.
I like it.
When my wife and I were going through marital counseling and everything at the beginning, just to make sure we were all on the same page, we talked about how we viewed marriage, and it was a partnership. That's how I viewed it, and that to me is what the teamwork is. Every person has to think of themselves as a valued player and make sure that they are maximizing their value in the team. So I like partnership.
What is your strategy for handling sandpaper people on a team? That's a fantastic question.
We have to be careful about our biases in how we judge and assess people based on our personality or our preferences. It's one thing if a person's not presenting, doing things the way that you like. The question is, are they still getting it done? Are they really disrespecting anybody? Is there anything terribly wrong with how they're executing? Maybe not. It might not be exactly the way that you would do it, the way you want it. But sometimes we use our own filters to then cast judgment. And that's why that word sandpaper people, it's like, well, how do you determine who's sandpaper and who's not? One person's passionate, one person's aggressive, right? So it's this whole thing of the filter. I think you have to assess the filter first. Make sure as a leader that you're not allowing your personal bias to be the reason why you feel correction is needed.
Right.
That could be because of cultural differences. That could be because of generational differences. I think we have to keep that in the back of our minds. Everyone has a story. And sometimes it takes just taking the moment to understand why this person is either reacting, causing friction, or not aligning to whatever it is that you're looking for them to align to. I think taking that time is really important. Seek to understand, then be understood, right? I think we all have to do that as leaders if we want the best for the team. Some people feel like that's not a valuable thing. I personally feel it is extremely valuable to take the time when you have a disgruntled teammate. I don't know if it's always bad people. Sometimes you can just not be in the right role.
Mm-hmm.
And I am 100% comfortable in supporting another individual in finding the right place for them.
Right.
I think, again, as a leader, you have to take the time to take the steps to see if this is a wrong environment. You got to check the aptitude. Does a person even have the ability to change? And then you have to be willing to support that person maybe on a different journey.
We have never worked in the same job, in the same organization, radically different career paths.
Yeah.
But when I said that you are one of the best teammates I've had, I meant that because you are present. And I think any role you have in life, even if you're a stay-at-home mom, you're divorced, you're a widow, you have kids, you just have yourself and friends, whatever relationship you're investing in with others, and I hope there's at least one, that's a teammate of yours. That's someone you are seeking to align with for some purpose and goal. So whatever that looks like, even outside of the business realm, man, you have to be present for that. And you have to realize that you can't pour from an empty cup or draw from an empty well. And the word encouragement comes to my mind a lot because I think when you break that down, the root word is courage, and courage means with courage. So the biggest way to get people over the fear of the unknown or uncertainties or novelties is just to have a team around them that encourages them, that gives them that little gust of wind they need to keep moving.
Yeah.
So you do that for me more than I can tell you. So the deliberate get up at the butt crack of dawn every other week, to me, is something I would not miss for the world, because I know I got to open myself up and let Fred pour into me. Because if I don't do that, I'm going to run dry and crack. And I think that facet of teammate and teamwork is probably the most important. How are you letting your spiritual cup be filled so you don't run dry, whatever your role in life is, to be able to give your gifts to other people? Man, I love you and I'm really grateful for you, but over to you. Last word for our listeners. What you got?
Man, what more can I say to that? Jeez, I
Whatever you
appreciate that,
want.
brother. I feel the same way. I will also say this. The older I get, the more experiences I have with anything. Being selective is not a bad thing. And when you start talking about who you partner with, who you connect with, who you're on a team with, it's okay to be selective. It's
Yeah.
okay to think about that these are people that will have access to you in a way that at times when you are vulnerable, at times when you are strong, at times when you are happy, and at times when you are sad. So connecting with the right people is extremely important. Even though you may have common goals, everyone is not on your journey. And you have to be okay with letting some people go to let other people in. And
Yeah.
I have just gained a lot of solid relationships as I've allowed people to fluidly move in and out of my life because of whatever stage, period, or time
Right.
it was necessary for them to be there. So my teams have changed. And it's okay. Although the A team doesn't exist anymore, right now it's Josh and Fred, right? Which is better than anything because that's where we are in this stage in life. And maybe
Right.
at some point that'll expand and be something else. But just acknowledge that your team doesn't have to be large. It could be two, right? It doesn't have to be a lot of people. Sometimes just having one other person, as you mentioned, to help pour into you and you pour into them, it's priceless. It's
It
priceless.
is. So much love. To you, your ladies, cheers. I love Donnie and the girls. We can't wait to see you guys again.
Absolutely,
And
man.
thanks to all y'all for joining us. Hold down the QC for me. Maybe I'll be back one of these days. You never know. But we love you
Sounds
guys.
good,
Thanks for
brother.
joining us. Have a great weekend.
All right, brother.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Off the Hinges. Don't forget to follow Foundational Coaching on your favorite social media platforms. Kick off your Saturday with me tomorrow morning at Coffee and Reflections on Substack, where I'll share my deepest reflections and most personal stories on the weekly virtue. I'm honored to be a part of your story today, and I'm proud of your growth, my friend. I can't wait for our next time together, exploring the vault.